All right. Excellent. So, all right. I have a lot of energy and I can feel the energy from you all as well. So I want to take a quick moment to take a deep breath and let's slow down really quick, okay? Everyone with me? Deep breath. Breathe out. 2 more times. Breathe in. Breathe out. 1 more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Yeah. You know, sometimes we get so much energy and we get thrilled to get things kickstarted that we get distracted. So my invitation for you right now is be open. Be open that you may be here for a reason that you don't know yet. My invitation to you is to be curious, for you to be open, and for you to allow the information to hit you as if you were receiving it for the first time. Some of the things that I may go over today, maybe you're familiar with them. Maybe you've heard some of these things before. But my invitation to you is to, as a child would, receive the information innocently as if you were receiving it for the first time. And more importantly than what I just said, everything that you hear tonight, I want to make sure that you take it with you and you apply it. Because you invested your time, you put in your energy to be here tonight, and that's worth a lot more than anything else. Your time is valuable, your energy is valuable. So my invitation to you is to make sure that whatever nuggets you take out from this, you go out and you apply it in the real world. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let's get this started. So I want to formally invite everyone here to the Academy for Adventurers. Now, this is not a regular academy. This is where we come not just to learn, but to grow. And not only to grow from information, but also to transform. That's what the Academy for Adventure is all about. For those of you who do not know me that well, my name is Mauro Schiavo, and today we're going to be going over my Warrior webinar. So, who am I? Well, some of you have known me for a long time, some of you have not. For the last 6 years, I have dedicated myself to the transformation of people and companies because I believe in the power of transformation. I believe that through coaching, we can have the opportunity each and every day to inspire others and to live out our best. A lot of us have talked about our work and our career, and there's nothing wrong with that because work and career are good things. It is good to have a job, and it's good to be able to pay the bills. But my invitation for you tonight, as we talk about these topics, start to think about your vocation. What are you called to do? What makes you different? And how, as you learn to build resilience, confidence, and overcome obstacles, how are you going to take those lessons to help you build yourself into living out your vocation? So that's one thing I want you to think about tonight. What is your vocation? If you're not sure what that is yet, be open to that as we talk about the topics tonight. So today's quest, we have 3 milestones in today's quest. The first milestone we're going to talk about is how we can overcome external circumstances. The second milestone in our quest today is we're going to learn how we can create confidence. And the third milestone in today's quest is we're going to learn how we can relay resilience. All right? So let's go ahead and go into our first milestone, external circumstances. All right, let's be honest. By a show of hands, how many of us have been affected by things that have gone on in the world the last 3 years? Yeah, everyone's hand went up. I even saw some virtual hands go up, right? Let's be honest, it's been a rough time, it's been a rough time. And even though we're out of the main issues, there's always something else that comes up, right? There's always a new problem, a new issue. And so what we have to learn to do is develop a strategy to overcome obstacles. Now, here's the negative thing about external circumstances, okay? What are some of the main ones? Politics, that's a big one. The economy, our work, and the people that we deal with. Those are four main obstacles that I have noticed that are present in most people's lives. Now, what's the problem with external circumstances? We allow these circumstances to dictate the way that we show up. If things are good, then great, we're good. But if things are bad, well, then we're bad. Well, what does that create? Well, that creates a life based on emotion. There's no stability in a life of emotion. It's all highs and lows. It's like, imagine if you live your life based off of the weather. And if you live in South Florida right now, that's a pretty crazy life because it changes every hour on the hour. It's like having the emotional intelligence of a toddler. The other bad thing that living a life based off of circumstances does is it takes everything out of our control. Nothing is within our sphere of influence anymore. We become victims. We lose our energy. We start to make excuses. We start to blame people. We start to deny that we have the role that we have in our lives. That's the problem with external circumstances. So what can we do? How can we fight back and come up with a solution? Well, it's time to go back to school and let's go over our ABCs, right? A, accept. Be honest with yourself and where you're at. Look, we're all human, okay? Sometimes we turn on the news and we see something we don't like and it affects us. Sometimes we receive a message from a coworker and it affects us. Sometimes maybe we invested some money in a stock, we lose it, it affects us. It's okay to feel it. But once you feel it, look at your behavior. Say, you know what? I'm going to own this problem. I'm going to be the boss of my own life and I'm going to lead. I'm going to act from a position of leadership and own it. And then see change, right? Because here's the thing with external circumstances. You have two options. Well, you have three options. Number one is you can leave it alone. Number two, you can let it keep affecting you. Or number three, you can change. There's something very interesting about the people, the places, and the things we do. If there is an energy drain, if we're constantly going through the same external circumstances and we don't change our behavior and we don't change the people that we spend time with, we don't change the places that we go to, and we don't change the things that we do, well, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over and over again. So we have to understand that if we apply and we go back to school, we learn our ABCs, that's the way out. Own your time, right? The same way like a warrior owns their weapon. Your weapon is your choice. Your weapon is how you spend your time. How will you spend it differently? You know what's interesting about the katana? Very interesting thing about the samurai. The samurai's katana was a weapon that was passed on generation to generation. And every single samurai wielded that weapon differently. They didn't wield it the same way. They improved their swordsmanship. They improved the way they showed up to battle. They improved the way that they acted. How are you integrating what you receive from others? How are you integrating your negative experiences and turning them into positive ones? Because you have the power to do that. The other thing that's very valuable is to go on a fast, of news, a news fast. There was a coach named Stephen Chandler who many years ago introduced this concept to me. It was very powerful. Stop watching the news, right? This just in, new article. I take my energy back. Declare it. Declare it right now. You take your energy back. Your time is yours. Your energy is yours. There's no need for you to use it on external circumstances because they don't serve you anyway. Bring back the power. Make yourself a warrior again. There's no reason for you to come from a place of weakness. You can come from a place of strength, the same way like a warrior wields his weapon. And it doesn't have to be just news. Think about other things maybe. Everyone here is in a different place, right? Everyone here is coming with different wins, different battles, different losses. You know what those are. Maybe they're social media related. Maybe you're on Twitter too long. Maybe you spend 5 or 6 hours of your day on YouTube. I don't know what that is. Maybe you spend time with people who also have a victim mindset that's actually worse than yours and they're sucking you in, right? So think about how you're spending your time and how you can fast from those negative situations and start to spend time with people who will motivate you, doing things that get you excited, going to places that you enjoy. That's how you buy your energy back. That's how you get your time back. It's by doing those types of activities. So A, accept. B, behave. And C, change. That's how we deal with external circumstances. So we've dealt with what comes from the outside. Now let's dive inside and see how we can create confidence. So now we have a force field, right? We have a force field around us that is preventing all these external circumstances from affecting us. So we have this force field, right? Like imagine you're a Star Wars character and you have the force. All right. Now let's build that interior strength and let's start with confidence. So who here knows a confident person? Who here knows someone who's very confident? Raise your virtual hand. Write in the comments down below. Who knows me? Okay, Chris knows confident person. Who else? All right. I see some hands going up. Awesome, awesome. Have you ever asked them what made them confident? Let's see here. Berta, I'm going to ask you. You can unmute yourself. Have you ever asked that person what makes them confident?
That is a great question, but no, I actually haven't.
Okay. Moises, have you ever asked that person what made them confident?
But I have a pretty good idea of
And what do you think it is?
Chester overall. That they're confident on. But that's more work related probably, but maybe overall confidence. Somebody.
Okay, gotcha. Arthur, have you ever asked that person what makes them confident?
Yeah, now that I think about it, I had this friend from I think in our college days we would sometimes go do some stuff. Maybe for New Year's we would go to like the Hard Rock down here, and I was always impressed by how carefree he was about like dancing in public and doing all kinds of wild things. And I think I did ask him, uh, what makes him so confident. And I think his answer probably would be that he just didn't really care what other people thought about him and letting his fun die down because of what other people think. Like he's gonna enjoy his life to the fullest, regardless of what other people think about him.
Wow. So it sounds to me like that person had that force field. It sounds to me like, you know what? Whatever people think, it doesn't matter. I've asked this question to many different people, and I've noticed that all their answers revolve around one singular fundamental concept. They had a track record for success. And that's good news, because what that means is that you can be confident too. All you have to do is learn what small actions you can take on a consistent basis. That's all it takes, because confidence is built from a place of action. Confidence is a result, right? It's not a prerequisite. A lot of people think, well, that person must be so confident because they do this all the time. And that's exactly right. It's because they've mastered the art of action. No one's born confident. I don't know about you, but I didn't come out of the womb confident. I don't think so, right? So ask yourself, how can you build confidence through your action? There's something very interesting about what Jesus says, and I felt this was very important. In order for us to get into heaven, whatever spiritual background you are, doesn't matter. But he said, in order for us to get into heaven, we must be like one of these little children. And I thought that was very interesting, because what does it mean? Well, children aren't scared of anything. Have you ever seen a child scared to get on a bike? Have you ever seen a child scared to run outside? Fear is learned. Fear is not natural. Fear doesn't come when you're a kid. We learn to be afraid. We allow our confidence to be drained one small step at a time. But here's the good news. You're all grown now. You've built skills. You've built strength. You've built a career. You've built relationships. You've built so many things. You are so much wiser than that child now. Imagine the good that you could do if you reclaim that inner child and you reclaim that confidence. All you have to do is take one small action at a time. Now, I wanted to share a story. Now, not all of you know this. Some of you do, but not all of you do. Growing up, I was bullied. I was obese. I was made fun of. I had glasses. I had acne. And I didn't have the confidence to talk to girls. It was terrible. And I remember days where I would come home and I would cry in the shower. It was a nightmare. I would never imagine myself speaking in front of people, let alone giving an online presentation. But if you saw me today, would you know that? If you met me off the street, would you know that? Probably not. You wouldn't think that's who I was, but that's who I was. And I learned through martial arts, through being coached, and through coaching others, that if you do 5% incremental growth on a daily basis, it adds up. It really does. And so what I learned about confidence, it's built one step at a time. What's your step? What's the next step? Chances are you know what it is. And if you look at life as if you were on a map and you had a compass and fear was that compass, it's that spot where you're not too scared, but you're not too comfortable. That's where you want to go. Because if you're not scared at all, then it's too easy. And if you're overwhelmingly frightened, then that's too hard. Negotiate with yourself. Where's that sweet spot? Where's that spot that I can build a little bit of extra confidence today that's not too easy, but not too hard? Like Goldilocks, right? Like the story of the bears, right? The soup was just right. And that's the way you want to think about your next action for building confidence. Finding the step that's just right. So, one of the great ways that you can take action on a consistent basis is to look at your network, right? Who do you know? Who do you know right now that you can engage with and create some form of accountability, right? I'm a big believer in accountability partners, right? But you have to put it out there. Ask and you shall receive. Say, hey, look, I have this goal. I'm looking to build this. I'm looking to work on this project. There's this area of my life that I want to improve. And say, you know what? Will you be willing to work on that with me? Will you be willing to sit down with me once or twice a month for us to support one another? Look at your network and who you know that can help you be accountable, all right? And when you find that person, make sure that you speak the truth, because the truth shall set you free. There's something very powerful about accountability that keeps you going forward. It doesn't matter if the step is small or not, but if you keep stepping and you have someone who's walking with you, like a mentor or a coach or a friend, you'll get to your destination. I promise you. So what about resilience? So we have that force field, right? We're blocking the effect of negative external circumstances. We have this inner fire, right? Right now, we have this fire of confidence inside of us. And now we're ready to be molded. The same way like a blacksmith takes a weapon and takes his hammer and he starts to mold it. Because you have the confidence now. You're starting to take actions in the right directions. But inevitably, something is going to come on your path. It's going to start to bother you and it's going to try to lead you astray. And that, my friends, is when resilience comes in, where we can start to forge a strong character. So, I have a question for you. Who wants to answer this question? What does resilience mean? I want to hear people's definition. I'll get 3 people. 3 people tell me, what does resilience mean? Don't all go at once. All right, Chris, you first.
To me, resilience is the ability to keep your eyes on the prize, whatever you say that prize is, just to continue to work towards it, right? Like you've laid out a path. Resilience is when you stay on that path no matter what comes your way.
I love it. Arthur, what about you? Can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, my mic was muted.
It's all good.
So I was saying that, yeah, I totally agree with Chris's definition. And just to add on to that, I think I'd say, I think resilience would probably maybe be the ability to withstand resistance and maybe the ability to do that over time.
Excellent. And Lubis, what about you? What does resilience mean?
Thank you. For me, it's to keep working towards a specific goal or whatever your dream is, despite any obstacle.
Awesome. Great answers. Great answers. Okay. So resilience, as you can see here by these 2 women, right? They're holding these big blocks up. And these big blocks are problems that they're facing. So what about the qualities of resilience? So we can hold up the problem, but how can we use resilience to actually fight back? Well, I've identified 3 main qualities of how we can build resilience, okay? Number 1, elasticity, right? You can bounce back. The same way that you throw a ball on the ground, you know it's going to bounce back, right? You may bend, but you don't break, right? Neuroplasticity, right? You keep learning and you keep growing. Look, we can put labels on our problems, right? We can say this was good or this was bad, right? But whether if we think it's good or bad, it doesn't matter because we learn, right? We can learn and we can grow. That is what it means to be neuroplastic. And we have identified through neuroscience that our neurons are constantly forming new connections as we learn new things, right? Our brain can change. There's no such thing as a fixed personality. There's no such thing as a fixed mindset. You're either growing to a direction that you want to go, or you're growing in the direction that you don't want to go. There's no such thing as a fixed mindset because we're not fixed creatures. We're constantly intaking information. Now, we may say that we're fixed because we're set in our ways, but what's funny is that we're set in our ways because we continue to feed that way, right? So it's like the brain's like, okay, they're still telling me the same thing, so I'm going to keep doing the same thing. So I'm going to keep building more neurons in that direction. But once you change, you can build neurons in the other direction. You can be like plastic and you can bounce back. And the last thing is like the same way that a boxer takes a hit, you can take a hit. You can get knocked down, and just like Rocky, you'll stand right back up. I don't know about you all, but I've been knocked on my ass many times. I've had days where I come home and I'm like, shit, this was a rough day. And I've had days where I come home, I'm like, great, it was a great day. But just like I said in the beginning, right? Whether if we think it's great or whether we think it's bad, we keep going and we keep moving forward, right? If we get knocked down, we get back up. If we have a great day, awesome. We don't always rest on our laurels. We have to keep going. We don't want to let those emotional highs and lows keep us down. We have to keep getting up. That's what it means to be resilient. You're elastic, you're neuroplastic, and you're tough. 3 qualities for resilience. That is how we develop that and we maintain that resilience. So I want to share a story about resilience in my life. So it took me about 8 years to get my first black belt. And I remember the days where I would show up to training and I would ask my instructor, look, I'm ready to test. Like, I'm ready to go. It's like, no, you're not ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. No, you're not ready. And he repeated that for about a year and a half. And it was rough because I was like, man, like I've put in my time, I've put in my energy, you know, I've invested so much. And it was because I wasn't patient, right? I wasn't patient. I didn't understand resilience, right? And he was testing me. He's like, how far can I push him to see if he's going to quit? He later told me this story. It's like, Mauro, being a black belt is not just about your ability, because you're proficient. You know your forms, you're strong, you have stamina, but I was looking to see how tenacious you were. I wanted to see, is he going to up and quit because I don't give him his belt? Is he going to act like a spoiled young adult, like a brat? Or is he going to keep showing up? Well, lo and behold, I never quit. I stayed resilient. I stayed in the game. And I got that black belt. And then I got a second black belt in another martial art. And look, this is not bragging because I'm no Muhammad Ali. You know, I'm not Conor McGregor. I'm just someone who didn't quit. That's just me, you know? And I've had problems in my business. I've had problems with relationships. Fortunately, now I have a beautiful wife. I have a business that's growing, but it's because I didn't quit, right? There's no magic formula. There's no secret. You know what the secret is? Have a vision and be willing to play full out into that vision. Don't let external circumstances kill your vision. Don't let a lack of confidence kill your vision. Don't let a lack of resilience kill your vision, because you can work on those 3 things. You can be more resilient. You can be more confident. You can have that force field that will fight back every single time you get down. That ladies and gentlemen, is the secret to success, is don't quit. Time and time again, they've showed IQ is a portion. Yes, right? Personality is a portion. Yes. But discipline outweighs both of those, because there are people who are not the smartest and there are people who are not the wisest and they still get there. And it's because they didn't quit and because they had a vision. So ask yourself, where are you in your vision right now? Right? Where are you with your confidence? Where are you with your resilience? And be honest, right? Because only you know. I know some of you, but I don't know all of you very well. And that's okay. But take inventory of where you are and see, how can I take action today? So developing a routine is a great way for you to have resilience, okay? Make it something that's fun, something that you engage in, something that's unique to you, that you can gamify, right? I have a killer morning routine that works for me. I wake up, I stretch, I go to church, and I exercise. It's very simple. That's my morning routine that I do 2 times a week. I don't do it every day. Sometimes people say, well, do you have a morning routine that's 7 days a week? No, I don't. And I'm honest. And that's okay. But you have to ask yourself, if you want to set yourself to be resilient, you have to be willing to make that routine. Okay? Ask yourself, what are some things that energize me, and how can I incorporate them into my life today? That I can grow, that I can challenge myself, that I can have some adventure. Routines matter. Routines help create resilience, because when you're having a rough day, you can rely on your routine, because your routine, you do it whether if you feel good or whether if you feel bad. That's the cool thing about having a routine. So think about what routine you can develop in your life right now. So, as I said in the beginning, what will you do? You sat through this webinar. You invested your time. You invested your energy. It's time for action, right? If there's anything that you take out of this webinar tonight, it's that if you're looking for a sign, here it is. Today's the day. If you are looking for a reason to start that new routine, that new workout, that career transition, that new relationship, here it is. Here's your sign. Today's the day. It's time for action. Even if it's a small step, it doesn't matter. But it's your time to shine. I mentioned vocation at the beginning of the call, right? A vocation is something that only you can do. It's not a job. It's not a career. It's what makes the best use of your gifts. Whatever project you want to work on, whatever lets you shine, this is your time to shine. And on that note, I wanted to spend a few minutes and open up the floor. Does anyone have any questions about some of the things that we've gone over tonight? See some hands up? Okay. Lubis? Ladies first.
Yes. So what would you say is the best advice when you try to build resilience by you go back and forth? What is the best quality that we can have in order to actually keep the resilience for a longer time or be really resilient?
Okay. Well, remember the ABCs, right? From confidence.
Yes.
Number 1, accept. Accept the fact that you're struggling. And that's good, because what that means is you're not quitting. So acknowledge the fact that that desire right now, you're actually living it out. So that's good. So accept the fact that you're in a place of struggle. You know, what's interesting is that I've learned this from Jordan Peterson, but the word Israel means to wrestle with God. That's very interesting, right? So right now you have a desire that you're wrestling with. And that's good, because you didn't leave the mat. You didn't quit. You didn't get out of the ring. You're still wrestling. So acknowledge that, right? Number 1. Number 2, okay? Can you pinpoint, right? Can you pinpoint the specific reasons, like what is the next move I have to make? So if we use a martial arts as an analogy, right? So if I'm fighting someone and I see that that person has a really good cross, like, okay, I have to stay away from that right hand. I have to stay away from that cross. I have to avoid the thing that I keep falling prey to. Because if he's hitting me with the same thing over and over again, that means that I'm not changing my behavior. So do a little bit of deep inner work and see what are the triggers, right? What's triggering you to stay in the same cycle that you are in right now, okay? That's one thing. The second thing I would say is once you've identified that trigger, now it's time for you to counter, right? So now that you're dodging that right, now you throw your uppercut. Whatever that uppercut is, that's your move. It's like, okay, I've identified what the problem is. Here's my solution. Every single time I see that trigger, this is what I'm going to do to fight back, right? So pinpoint one specific thing and then develop a counter strategy so that way it doesn't keep knocking you down. Does that make sense?
Sure, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chris.
Honestly, my question, and it was a question to you, it was really going to be about going back to the ABCs.
Yes.
What are some of the things you do when you don't know what to change? I think you just spoke to it some.
Sure. Part of it is that, well, so I do a little bit more introspection than the average person, right? Because a lot of it has to do with my profession. So when I sit down, particularly on Monday, and I'm looking at my week, I block out time to think. It's like, what the hell do you mean? Like, you block out time to think? I'm like, yes, I do. I block out time to either sit down or go for a walk and allow myself to actually breathe, right? Because, look, I get it. There's always something to do. We're more busy than ever, right? But if we want to break out of the cycles and we want to build resilience and confidence, then we have to be willing to do the deep inner work necessary. So I would say, if you don't know what to change, then it's probably because you haven't given yourself the space to actually explore it, right? Because, well, imagine a video game, right? So I love role-playing games. So you're in a role-playing game and you're the main character and you have a map, right? And on the map, you see that there's all of this unexplored territory. Well, one of the things I like to do in games is I like to go and find out what the hell is out there. So I go to the places that I haven't been to before, and I'm willing to explore. And while I'm doing that, I find new items, new gear, new enemies to fight, whatever. Allow yourself to be like that character. Allow yourself to explore the things that maybe you haven't explored. Allow yourself to be able to actually look at things that you haven't uncovered. And the way that we do that in the 21st century is actually through silence. That's how we do it. We give ourselves the time and the freedom to think, right? With a white piece of paper or going out for a walk, and just give yourself that space. I believe that that's a great way to actually give yourself the ability to say, look, you know, when's the last time I actually looked at my life? Make it the most important thing in your day, right? Because if you're looking to level up, look, what got you here is not going to get you there. If you keep doing what got you to this point in your life, it's not going to get you to the next level. And I believe that a lot of those answers are within us, the same like we have an inner child, but we have to be willing to dig deep. And here's the thing. Sometimes you may find out things that you maybe were putting off, or maybe things you didn't want to see, right? We all have that. We all have things that we don't want to actually look at. But if we're not willing to look at them, then we're never going to get to the next level. What do you think about that, Chris?
That's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The silence, you know, you're saying that the way to do that now is with silence. Is a little counterintuitive, but it's really insightful. Thanks for that.
Yeah, brother. I mean, look at this. You know, this is a blessing and a curse at the same time, you know. It's funny because this is pretty expensive, but the $1,000 or the $1,500 that your phone costs, it's worth billions to companies. It's worth billions because it's our time, it's our attention, right? Advertising, videos, content, products. I mean, that is a multi-billion-dollar device. And the reason is because it's connected to everything. And when you're connected to everything, you're not connected with you. I work with adolescents in some programs, and that's their biggest hurdle, man. And we have to step away. Doesn't matter if we're young or old. We're all living in the same age and time. So silence is the way to go. I promise you, silence is the way to go. Berta, I saw you had your hand up.
I did, thank you. And that was a great question Luis and Chris asked. Mauro, I had a little, I wrote down one of the things that you were talking when you were talking about establishing a routine. It almost sounds like you were saying that having that routine will make up for any motivation gaps, right? On those days when we're a little low. Is that what can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, you know, so we're all going to have days where we have emotional highs and emotional lows. But having that routine and having that, I would say, I learned this from Stephen Chandler as well. Having that blue collar work routine, you know, you clock in and you clock out, right? That's a routine. It's like, there's no time for emotion, right? But you know what's interesting about having a routine? The emotion always shows up, right? And the second you start your routine, you feel better within the first 5 minutes. You see, Andrew Huberman talks about something called the warm-up period. It's like, we're not robots, right? We're not Teslas that we just get all our torque, you know, from pressing on the gas. Like, we're more like engines. Like, we're more like a gasoline engine. Like, we have to warm up, we have to rev a little bit in order for us to get high octane performance. It's gonna suck for the first 5 minutes. If you wake up at 5 in the morning, you've never done that before, boy, it's gonna suck. But once those first 5 minutes are over, something magical happens. You're like, wow, I'm so happy I did this. It's like going to the gym. Wow, I'm so happy I came. It's like asking a girl or a guy on a date. Wow, I'm so happy I asked that person on a date. It's very uncomfortable in the beginning. Nobody likes getting in the shower. Nobody likes getting out of the shower. But when you're in the shower, it's great. And that's that zone. So a routine helps us to stay in that zone regardless of how we feel. And you repeat that over time and you get that cadence, you don't even think twice about it. You just do it, right? And then what's funny is then the opposite. You do it so much that when you no longer do it, you feel guilty. That's the funny thing about routines is that you're like, man, like I feel bad. I feel bad if I don't do it, right? So, and that means that you've gotten to the level where you're no longer stagnant. It's like, I want to keep growing. I want to keep going. And I think that's the powerful thing with routines and motivation is 80% of life is showing up. Many of you have probably heard that quote before, right? It's a very powerful quote. It's true. I mean, I've had times, and I think maybe we've all had times where maybe we showed up to an interview, we're like, crap, like, I don't think this is going to go well. Or speaking to a client, or maybe going on our first date, or showing up for a new position. You're like, man, I think this is going to be a pretty bad day, but here I am. And then when you show up, you're like, huh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, because it's all in here, right? But when you show up, things usually have a way of working themselves out. That's what I've noticed anyway. Was that helpful,
you.
Marta?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Awesome. Well, do you have your hand up, Chris?
Sorry, no.
Oh, no problem. So I have some resources, some goodies for further growth for you. So I believe that, you know, with any adventure, you need some loot, you need some treasure along the way. So I'm going to drop some resources in the chat. I have a link that's going to take you to a few different things or some assessments for you to learn more about yourself, a link to the presentation, a copy of the slides, as well as a couple of assessments that can get you thinking about some of the things that we talked about tonight, and a couple of other goodies there as well. So I want to thank you all for your time. I wish you all the greatest of adventures. I hope that you all get out there and crush it, because the biggest crime that I'm seeing today is people who are not playing full out, and we're not living out our dreams. We all have something to offer. We all have something to give. And the more aligned we are in that, the better the world will be, and the better adventures we'll all have. So I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your attention. My phone number is there, right? If you don't have it, please take it down. If you ever have any questions or anything you want to ask, okay, please don't hesitate to reach out. Please don't hesitate to ask. You know, I will be more than happy to be of service in any way possible. As I said before, I'm going to link it in the chat. All the resources you'll have at your disposal. There's also a QR code here that will take you to my website. But again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being a part of this experience. Thank you for being a part of this webinar, and I wish you all the best. Thank you all, and take care.
Thank you, Mauro.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you very
go
much.
ahead.
Good job, Mauro.
Thank you. Let me
Good
go
job,
ahead and
Mauro.
see. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and link this here all for you. And I'm going to go ahead and also. So there's the link to all the resources. And that's my phone number. This is my email. So that way you have 3 ways of being able to get in contact with me. And I want to
Mauro,
say, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you have a calendar link or anything if we want to schedule more time with you, or should we just reach out to you by phone or email?
Yeah, so I actually do have a calendar link, and for whatever reason, the last time I linked it, it wasn't working. So I just wanted to put out my cell phone here because it's a surefire way for people to
We can text you.
Yeah, because I just wanted to, when I saw that it wasn't working, I didn't want to put the calendar link here because I didn't want people to like, oh crap, but your calendar's like, yeah, but it didn't work properly. So it's happened to me before. So just to be safe for the webinar today, I wanted to make sure I put the phone number.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
And my email is there as well. So, and the resources has everything that I talked about. So if you have any questions at all, please reach out. Please reach out. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent.